Burlesque Stripped Down, episode number 27. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is once again Velvet Eau Claire, your guide through all of those secrets, saucy, sexy, not so sexy, not so saucy secrets, all of them, of us, the ladies and gents behind the tassels. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am so glad that you decided to press play today. We had a couple weeks of radio silence as I was working on some other projects and other work, but I am very happy to have you with us because I do have an amazing interview that I've been teasing for weeks on end, and that is with the amazing Diva Hollywood. She is the founder of our infamous Facebook group, Big Sister, Big Brother. I say our because it feels like our community. It feels very much like a community that we all contribute to, and it's become an amazing resource for a lot of artists around the world. So I have been teasing my interview with her, and it truly is an amazing interview. We talk about a lot of good stuff. She's absolutely wonderful to chat with. You'll hear a bit about her journey, as well as a really, really interesting project that she has coming up very soon. And you may or may not get a new recipe to try out of the deal too, and a new hashtag. So that'll be your call to action. If you listen through to the very end, you will hear us talk and give you some instructions on something that you need to do and a hashtag to tag those photos with as well. So we can kind of see what else is going out there. So let me tell you just a little bit about Miss Diva Hollywood. She is the UK's top whip teaser, and she is full of sin, sauce, and seduction. She's performed all over the world, headlining in the top cabaret and burlesque clubs in New York, Milan, Geneva, and Paris. With her sassy repartee, comedic double whip trips, cheeky attitude, wild audience interaction, and love of dark satire, Diva Hollywood has become the go-to name for whip-smart entertainment, and she is truly a force to be reckoned with. As you will hear, she has a lot of different things going on. She has a very interesting journey as far as how she came into burlesque and is just really widening her skill set and doing some just really fantastic things out there in the world. So without further ado, let's go ahead. I'll be back right after this interview to give you a couple quick reminders. But let's go ahead and get into my interview with the fabulous Miss Diva Hollywood. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. I have Diva Hollywood here. I'm so excited because we have been trying to make this work for months now, and it's amazing. I'm so excited to finally talk to her. Welcome, Diva. How you doing?
I'm very well, Velvet, and it is really, really lovely to actually finally get to talk to you as well.
Yay, it's so good. Because, of course, we've known each other. For anyone listening, you've heard me and many of my guests mention the Big Sister Brother community, the Burlesque Big Sister Brother community on Facebook. That's typically one of everybody's favorite resources that they mention at the end of the podcast. And this is the wonderful human being that, created it for us, right?
Yeah, well, it was one of those things that I was actually driving to the Bristol Burlesque Festival, which is probably about a 4-hour drive for me. I spend, traveling a lot. I drive a lot doing this burlesque thing. And it came into my head, and I just thought, wouldn't it be lovely if, more established performers could help younger performers? And that's kind of where I came up with the idea. And I started doing it on a one-to-one basis, just with a few students, just to see if it would work. And then I wasn't actually going to continue it. I was going to just have it as, people do it for themselves, give the idea out into the world. And then I got lots of messages from people saying, oh, we don't feel confident enough to approach established performers. Please, 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 will you set this up? So it was really just an experiment to see if the Facebook group would work. And we're now nearly up to 2,500 members.
And the thing about it that's great is that not everybody, but a lot of people are active. Those are active members.
They are active members. And I get people backstage coming up to me and just thanking me so much, so many times, just saying, how much they've used the group, how much it's helped them, how they've actually started to meet other people within the community, both big sisters and brothers and other newer performers that they would never have known about if we hadn't had the group. And yeah, people get very passionate about it, and they're very protective about it as well. So if anybody tries to cause any fuss or drama, because that's one thing one of our rules, they get told off.
Yeah.
And they were like, we don't really feel that that represents the group. So I like that. I like that everybody's sort of taking it on board themselves to protect it and to look after it, and that they also enjoy the fact that there is no drama on there, that it really is for the community, to help the community. It's a safe space. People talk about a lot of things that they would never, ever talk about or be able to talk about online. And that I like.
Absolutely. I've noticed that as well. It goes far beyond. I mean, sure, to be sure, there are a lot of questions about rhinestoning.
Yes. Yes.
And all of that and the crafty bits and all of that. But there, I've been surprised in a wonderful way about how many questions, that, like you said, that are really, personal, and the support that people receive. And it's just an amazing resource. I'm really in love. It's one of the few, I'm in a lot of groups. But it's one of the few that I have, up at my favorite section and that I go to almost on a daily basis.
Aww.
So,
well, that's what a lot of people have said to me, that that they've kind of stopped hanging out in other groups. They've stopped hanging out on Facebook, and they hang out on the sister group. And they've been able to talk about mental health. They've been able to talk about performing with disability, performing during pregnancy, costumes. Some people will say, I've got an idea. Can somebody please chat to me, because I don't want to make sure it's not somebody else's idea. It's just every time you log on, it really surprises me, because when I first started, I would put questions up, I would put posts up, and now it's a healthy community and I don't have to pose things. People, every day there's something new going on.
I think one of the ones that stuck out to me the most, I remember seeing someone, and I wouldn't mention names even if I could remember, but someone was posting that they just were they were having a rough day. They were in the midst of, maybe some sort of crisis or something like that. Yeah. Does anybody have time to talk?
Yeah.
And just that simple.
Yeah.
And there were, 6, 7, 8, 10, I don't even remember how many people that were like, yes, I'm here right now, call me. Or if they were in the area, let's get lunch, let's coffee. I mean, just that kind of, it almost brings tears to my eyes just thinking about it, just to have that kind of support when you don't have a friend around outside,
Well, what I've just, because there's so many people that, they are in quite remote places, or even sometimes cities. You can feel quite alone. And
that's for sure.
Even in cities, we find ourselves quite isolated sometimes. And if you are having a bad day, there's times when you can't actually talk to friends or family. And sometimes it's lovely to be able to just talk to strangers or new friends online. And that I have found really wonderful. And people will message me and go, oh, is it okay to post this or that? And they will check with me, and they won't just put things up if they feel that it's not right. And most of the time, it absolutely is okay. We're just trying to stop advertising, really, because it was choking up the posts. And even though people want to know about shows that are happening or workshops are happening, we felt that there were other places on the internet that they could use that for. But hopefully, before we started talking, I said we have a secret project that is going to be coming out when we're back from our holiday. We've been working on it since last year. We're actually, hopefully by the time this comes out, this will be happening. But we've created a website called Birdie, which is for the whole community, not just for burlesque, but for variety and circus, and for anybody that wants to use it. And it will be a place where you can have your own name. We won't be schooling it like Facebook. There'll be places for advertisement. There'll be places for shops. There'll be places for groups. There'll be places for interviews. There will be, it will be a community website. So it will mean that we can still have the sister group within Birdie, and it'll still be a closed group, and it'll still be private, and we'll still have everything that we have on Facebook. But we can divide things up so that we can have a place for people to talk about costumes. We can have a section where people can talk about new skills, or, so we'll see how it grows. We're keeping it. My partner, Steve, who also helps out with the sister group, he has built it, and we've learned so much from doing the group of what we feel is needed, but we're keeping the initial launch. It will be smaller just so that we can see how it works. And obviously, it can't have large videos and photographs, and, it's going to be quite rough and ready to start off with, but it will be for the community. So we're hoping Fingers crossed it works.
That's fantastic to hear. It sounds like kind of like a social network meets like forums kind of a thing, like a place to hang out. That's really cool. I think that is something, that's needed, especially, you alluded to this, but the way Facebook, is policing a lot of, people in our industry and performers and things like that. And so to have a place, because I know when I was, when I've been trying to do research for this podcast and for my business, I've looked over and I know, was it the Ministry of Burlesque? Yes. And there's been a few, is that the one that had the forums? It has the forums?
It had. That was there when I originally started. James and Kitty started that. And they were lovely. And it was an amazing resource.
Yeah, but I know a lot of those have just kind of, they're just not as popular as they used to be.
No.
A lot of sites and forums like that. So it would be great to have kind of a one-stop shop,
Well, this is what we thought. And this is kind of where the sister project came, the idea for the project came was originally because I thought, well, we don't have a directory. We don't have a worldwide directory of performers. And this is why I have the directory on my website, so that people could list who they are and where they are. And hopefully within Birdie, if you wanted a blonde champagne glass performer, you'll be able to type that in and you'll find how many blonde champagne glass performers there are out there, or, sword swallowers, or, fire breathers, or fan dancers. Those, you'll be able to, promoters will be able to search and find, or people who are running parties, or, anybody really, if they want to have their own sword swallower for the day, they can come onto Birdie and they can find out about it and, or find them and sort of be able to contact them through Birdie. So that's also going to be part of it.
It's really fantastic. I know I've been talking with some of my other guests about the way our industry is evolving. And it's just so fascinating to see. Because, the 90s were all about kind of that resurgence and just the performing and all of that. But what I'm loving right now is this place where we're in, especially with technology and the internet, and to see how these things are interacting and the types of things we can do. Certainly performing is like, kind of that's the reason we all do this, right? Is just to be on that stage. Yeah. But I'm really loving seeing some of these projects either being talked about or launched or things like that will kind of integrate and support and enhance the industry.
Definitely. We're so lucky, we're so lucky where we are right now with the way, I'm able to talk to you.
Yeah, exactly.
10 years ago, we would never have been able to do this. We would never have met. We would never have known about each other. We might have had to do this by letter.
Carrier pigeon,
smoke signals. It's moved on so much. And I love technology. I've always been a futurist. I think I have a postgrad in electronic imaging. Before I got ill with MS, that's what I did. I created huge digital art projects in schools and museums and colleges, and I created my own digital collage work and prints and videos and animations. And that's where I was before I started doing burlesque. And I actually worked with trigger programs and interaction programs and film and sound within performance. So I've always been a massive fan of technology and what it can do and how it can help. And also, God, how it can hinder. Jesus, yesterday, just trying to upload something onto YouTube and then get it back off my computer and onto my iPad and onto Instagram. It was like, oh!
For anybody listening who heard my interview with Ava Valentina a couple weeks ago, that was a hot mess trying to record that. And I think we ended up with maybe 6 or 7 different recording pieces because the internet just kept cutting out and we couldn't get this. And then my Skype stopped working and it was just such a mess. And editing that was a load of fun too, trying to get it all together. But
I call it yak shaving because it's just as frustrating. If you start at one end of a yak, by the time you've shaved it, got to the other end, you've got to start shaving again, and it's like it's a never-ending
battle.
Yeah, sometimes technology is a never-ending battle.
It's true. Well, good. Well, I mean, I'm loving hearing about this. I'm so excited to find out more as you do launch. You said it's Birdie, right?
Birdie.
Birdie, as you do launch that and as it grows, I'm sure it's going to be something that we're all, if anybody is listening to this in the future, I'm sure you've probably already heard of it because it's going to take off and be amazing. I'd love to know, I mean, maybe that's it, but do you have anything else going on in your life right now that you're super really excited about? Or are you just kind of focused on that?
I wish. I don't
Multi-potentialite is what we like to call us.
I think, oh goodness. Well, I'm really excited about Birdie, but I'm also really excited. I've just finished a stand-up comedy course, so I'm kind of trying to this year push myself and branch out as a performer. So I got a singing lesson from the amazing Kiki DeVille, who's just a phenomenal performer, and she's given me faith that I can actually sing. And I've done this comedy course, and it's given me so much more confidence on stage. And the part I find difficult about it was actually writing, and performing in front of the small workshop group. But the actual, once I got that and got my material, the actual performance part of it, I loved. But I'm working all these things together because I want to create a one-woman show.
Fabulous. That's great.
So I'm going up to next week to do a workshop with an amazing performer, Peta Lily, who runs a dark clown workshop. Ooh. So I think it's going to be a really intense, immersive 2 days. I've heard so many good things about this woman, so I'm very, very excited about working with her. And I can't wait to kind of process what comes out of it. Because like I've said, I got MS 10 years ago, and when I got sick, instead of hiding, I started stripping.
I love it.
It coincided really, really well. And so I decided I really wanted to create a show that talks about my ethos of life, which is to live life like you have 4.5 years. Because if you live life like you've got 1 day, you'll probably get arrested. But if you live but if you live life like you've got 4.5 years, then there's space for napping, because napping is really important.
Yeah.
And I just want to create something that is positive and talking about disability in a positive way, and being creative and trying to spread that positivity, and that, you don't have to have a natural disaster or something crazy happen in your life that you can actually change your life. There is ways out of how you feel right now, and that's what I want to put into the show. So it's still quite an embryo of a project, so I'm hoping to work with Peta Lily to have time this year that's going to grow. So that's my excitement. That's my little burning fire at the moment.
That's amazing. I can't wait. Again, same with Birdie. I can't wait to kind of follow your journey through that and see where that goes. And speaking of journeys, I'd love to back up a little bit and go, we've talked about what's happening right now and what you're hoping for the future. Yeah. Let's go back. I mean, you mentioned, being diagnosed and how that kind of got you started, but was there a moment, or what was your journey as far as finding your way into burlesque and performance?
Well, I'd always known about it. I used to love the Gypsy Rose V film when I was a kid. I just fell in love with the costumes and her elegance, and the fact that she was geeky and quirky, and that she wasn't a natural showgirl. So Gypsy's always been a huge icon for me, because I'm quirky and not a natural showgirl, and I'm a complete tomboy, really. So I always felt like that was something I'd love to do. But then as I grew older, I gained weight, and I didn't feel like, I couldn't possibly do something like that. And I started to meet people who were doing burlesque, and I was, I'm not sure if this is for me. And then it was one of those really weird coincidences. A friend of mine started to date this very lovely circus performer, and he was creating a show that also had a small film section in it. And in this section, his girlfriend runs off to New York. She's fed up with being a circus performer, and she runs off to New York to become a burlesque performer. So the girl that was supposed to play his girlfriend decided she didn't want to do it. So my friend Nick phoned me up, and he phoned me and to another girl, and she didn't pick up the phone. I picked up the phone. He asked me if I would do it. I happened to be free that week, and I got picked up, taken to a store. We bought a costume. We got to the rehearsal space. We created an act, and I just fell in love with it. And I thought, this is amazing. And I was actually going to New York that year, later on in that year, to do a digital art workshop with Troika Ranch, who are an interactive dance company in New York, or they were in New York at that point. And I thought, I wonder if I can make life imitate art. So I contacted a few friends and they said, oh, you've got to check out the Slipper Room. So I dragged all these digital artists to the Slipper Room, and Scotty the Blue Bunny was hosting that night, and he sat on one of my friend's knees and completely embarrassed this poor geek. I've never seen anybody turn so red in my life. Julie Atlas Muse was performing, Dirty was performing, and I was just blown away by these men and women. I just thought, these guys are incredible. So I blazingly said to James, who runs the Slipper Room, I was, oh, I'm a burlesque performer from England, can I perform at your show? And he's like, oh, well, we've got a spot coming up in 2.5 weeks if you're free. Really welcome to come. I'd never actually performed live, so I was completely flagging. So I did the digital workshop, and then at night I ran around shopping, got all my bits and pieces, rehearsed in my tiny New York hotel room, and I did it. That was the first time I ever performed, was on this Slipper Room stage.
Wow.
Hardly took anything off. I was really didn't know what I was doing. They were very, very sweet. And I later in years, I did tell James that what I did, and he just laughed. He said, well, we like your cheek, Diva, so we don't mind. So yeah, that was the first time I ever really performed, was there. And I was hooked. I absolutely loved it. So I had to continue after that. I was just like, I can't stop this.
Yeah, it's a runaway train now. It's going.
Yeah, and I was 35, you know? It's like most people I know are quitting, and they're not even in their 30s. And I started when I was 35. And I was disabled.
It's amazing. It's interesting to hear, and this is one of my favorite questions to ask, because I love hearing about people's journeys. You know, some people had a, kind of a slow burn with burlesque, like a love affair, and some people fell in love immediately. Some people have been dancing their whole lives. Some people started, when they were older and didn't do any dancing. I just really love, I've said it before and I'll say it again. This is one of my favorite things about burlesque, is just the variety and the amount of the stories that we can tell, and our journeys and our paths. I just
completely.
Love it.
And that's what makes it so good, is because you meet people who are from so many different backgrounds and aren't necessarily traditional dancers. Like, there are some amazing traditional dancers out there, but there's lots of people who are plumbers or electricians. But yeah, I absolutely love it. That's part of what I enjoy about it, is meeting different and new people backstage and hearing their stories. Because I always say, I think it was Julie Atlas Muse said to me when I first started, I talked to her and I asked her how it was best to progress. And she said to me, be yourself. There's so many different things out there that you can do. But if you actually create an act that is inspired by yourself and by your energies and by your experiences, nobody else can make that act. And that is what will get you booked. And I've always kept that close to my heart, that statement. And that's what I've always passed on to new performers. And it's the thing I say to every single one of them, is be yourself. Do not look at Dita Von Teese and say, I want to be Dita Von Teese, I want to be that. Or Dirty Martini or Lulu DeVille. Be inspired by these women, of course, but you're not. Yes. You're not those people. Be yourself, and if you're that, then you will rock this, and people will want to book you, and you will have work all the time.
Absolutely. And I think that's what draws a lot of us to burlesque in the first place, is that we see it as this outlet where we can be ourselves, where we can bring our own, because many other performance media are a little bit more restrictive. Yes. There's rules for this. This is what you do. This is what counts as jazz. This doesn't count as jazz. This is, you follow these lines if you're a performer. Even improv, there are rules to it. And burlesque, there are no fucking rules. You do whatever you want. And that's what, when I first started this podcast, I did a what is burlesque thing. And I was like, well, I can tell you what burlesque is, but it's really whatever you want. You get on stage and do something fun.
And yeah, and I think if you keep that in mind, then you are going to create something fun, and you're going to create something unique. And I think it's good.
And that's what people want to see as well. That's, like you said, that's what's going to get bookings.
Yes.
People don't want to see the same tired old, the Dita Von Teese and her, her champagne glass or martini glass, whichever one she's doing, is amazing. But we don't want to see that every time.
No, I think as performers, we definitely don't, because I think we get weirder and weirder in our heads, and we forget that there's still people out there that haven't seen burlesque. And
that's true. That's a good point.
They need to see that, or they want to see that because they've never experienced that, and that's great. But I think as performers, we're like, no, push the boundaries, do something different, have something creative. Like I did a show recently where it was the Funny Girl show, so everybody in there was a comedic act, and it was great, just actually be among so many funny women who were doing, every single one of them was completely different, but they were all, the crowd were great, and they loved it because everybody was laughing the whole night. But there was no martini glass, but there was one girl, Bobby Dazzler, it was her show, and she stripped on a treadmill.
That's hilarious.
And it's really, really funny. Her choice of music is really funny. And at one point, she, her partner held a completely sparkly fishing rod with a can of beer hanging to get her to run faster towards the beer.
Genius.
She's on heels on a treadmill, on an electronic treadmill. So I love it. I've never seen somebody strip on a treadmill before, so I absolutely adored it.
But you do make a good point. I mean, it's this balance, because you're right. You're absolutely right that I think a lot of us forget that there are these classic acts, and sometimes that's what people want to see when they come to burlesque shows. So it's finding that balance between, pushing the envelope and doing always new things, and also, paying respect and showing the people kind of what they want to see, but putting a new spin on it.
Well, I think it's taking something classic and beautiful, like Vicky Butterfly and her Isis wings that she has now that are lit Isis wings. There's lights the whole way through. So she's taken a very old art form and created something new and very futuristic and very, very beautiful with it. So it's that thing of taking something, taking old rules and breaking them and making something interesting with them. And it can be done in a classic way or a funny way or a gore way. And that's the great thing about burlesque. We do have such choices. And sometimes people it's the simplest thing that they'll do. And you're just like, oh my God, I wish I'd thought of that. How did I never think of that? But I can't.
Stripping on a treadmill. I don't know why that didn't come into... Oh, wait, because I don't go on treadmills because I don't exercise.
I know. She is going to be so fit by the end of the year because that act is going to get booked.
That's got to build those glutes, man.
Completely.
That's amazing. So speaking of these kind of classic acts and, taking inspiration and all of that, who inspires you? Whether it's a performer or in your everyday life, who is your inspiration, Diva?
I think always it comes down to Julie Atlas Muse. She was one of my first ever performers that I saw. And I love that lady. I'm really lucky to call her a friend now as well. Oh my goodness, going back to simple, she can take such a simple idea and make it so unique. And she's just beautiful to watch on stage and really funny and really, really entertaining and unique. It's just so unique what she does. And her energy is great. And she's just a really special person. And I think that comes out through her act. So she's always been, and I don't even think she classes herself really as a burlesque performer. She's a performance artist. And I think she is absolutely wonderful. I love somebody like Marnie Scarlett, who came from fetish modeling to begin with, and her costumes and her way of looking at things are really unique. I love her for the sort of alternative burlesque. And I've seen Dita perform, and I think for classic, she's just, you can watch her, and if she turns around, and I know she can't see you, but you feel like she's caught your eye, and you're just like, oh! And she just knocks you for six because she's like, she's sending this amazing power bolt of energy out into the crowd. It's so refreshing to see somebody who can do something. It may not necessarily be what you want, but it's so good, and I love that. And I think it's anybody that really loves what they do and really knocks the ball out of the park for me is they become my heroes.
So have you had any major, fangirl moments that you just were kind of geeking out over, and when you met someone, you just felt, like you were a 13-year-old girl again?
The worst one was actually, it had nothing to do with burlesque. It was actually, do you know that Frankie Goes to Hollywood band?
Yes.
Holly Johnson. I was in love with Holly Johnson when I was a kid, and I wouldn't hear of it that he was gay.
Yeah, no.
And I really wanted to marry Holly Johnson. And as an artist, he's a really good painter, and I got to meet him, and he is probably the person that I went most fangirl over ever. Because I turned into 13-year-old me, and I couldn't speak, I couldn't raise my head, I couldn't look him in the eye for any length of time. I was so embarrassing. Because I was exhibiting upstairs and he was exhibiting downstairs. And at the end of the shows, he had a big champagne party, and he was really generous. He gave us all his alcohol because he was sponsored, and so we all got drunk at his show. And at the end of the show, I actually admitted to him that I had wanted to marry him when I was 13. And he was so sweet about it. And he was like, "Oh, Diva, you never know. You never know." And I was like,
oh, that's so cute.
And I was like, "Holly, do you know what? I do. I know now. It's okay.
I kind of know.
Thank you."
Like, you don't have to pander to me. I know.
Yeah, I'm not 13 now, but I may be acting a little bit like I'm still 13, but I'm not. It's okay. But thank you. So he treated me so nicely. And I love that when you meet somebody that is your idol, and that they have time to spend that time with you, and that they don't brush you off. And I've always tried to do that with people that I've met, that, I've inspired them, and I make sure to spend time with them and talk to them. And there's only been occasionally, when you're packing up at the end of the show and you've got fake blood drying into your hair, and you're sweaty and covered in glitter, and you're just trying to get finished up because they're trying to, the venue is closing, and people go, "Oh, I just wanted a photograph," and you're like, "Really? Now?" But I'll still try to go like, look the part in the photograph or take the photograph with them, but that's not always successful.
Well, I think it's so important as, for celebrities or even mini celebrities, or, kind of whatever level it is to really, make those connections with people. I mean, like we've talked about before we started recording, I mean, that's the whole point of life, right? Is to make these connections with people, no matter how famous you are or how, disheveled you may be after a show, to make those connections. And it doesn't matter, who you are. I guess. I don't know if that makes sense, but
I think you're right. I think it's that thing of, you can inspire people. And if you're, if you can just give time of day to somebody and listen to what they say, you will inspire them to then go off and do better things and create something in the world that is better. And they'll then hopefully go off and inspire somebody else. So it's like a connection, isn't it, really? It's like you give to someone and then they give to somebody else, and then
absolutely. And you never know what something small does. It's so cliched, but it's so true. I was just listening to a podcast episode from Michael Hyatt, who does kind of inspirational, I guess, or productivity type things, business type stuff. Yeah. And he was talking, and I can't for the life of me remember who it was that he met, but he was telling a story about when he met someone fairly famous, and when he walked into the room, he had a couple minutes with this gentleman, whoever it was, and the guy went, set down his thing, walked over to Michael Hyatt and said, "Hi, my name is so and so. What's your name?"
Oh, wow.
And Michael Hyatt said, he's like, "Well, yeah, duh, I know what your name is." It was that connection moment that just brought the other gentleman, whatever his name was, down to earth. Yes. And made it. We're two people connecting. I am not a celebrity connecting with the lowly ones. We are two people connecting.
But that's it, I think, and it's people who are super relaxed and confident in what they do, and they don't need to take other people down. That's exactly. Not part of who they are, and they, they're just getting on and they're doing their job and they're successful. And I'm really lucky that I can list off, so many performers who are icons within our industry, and every single one of them that I've met have just been really, really lovely and given time, and I can call some of them friends. I've met them more than once and hung out with them, and they're such lovely people, and they're really decent people, and I think they're chilled out about what they do, and they don't need to have drama or cause trouble or be mean. They're just getting on. And it's like somebody said yesterday, I was talking to a performer yesterday, she goes, "Well, why do it? If you're going to be grumpy and angry, just go and do something else."
Yeah, clearly you're not happy doing this. So All right, so let's talk about you as a performer. When you're kind of in this act creation process, and I know right now you're working on in the early stages of this one-woman show, so whether it's that or whether it's something, just a classical burlesque number, where do you kind of find that inspiration? And does it follow a typical method when you have that to go from inspiration to final act?
I think it's really changed over, I've been doing this for 10 years now, and it's really, really changed for me. Originally, I think it would have been a song or a piece of costume or just having a crazy ideas. I think we all come to the game with an idea or two. But I think for me, that it's definitely now developed into a story. Like, I haven't actually made a burlesque act for 4 years now because I'm moving more on to creating comedy, stand-up, and all my whip acts are becoming talking acts as well. And I'm trying to make stuff that is as cheeky and funny and provocative as a strip, but that I keep my clothes on. I think I'm winning where that comes, because my new one, my pirate one, it's inspired by Anne Bonny, who was a cross-dressing pirate. She was a pirate who pretended to be a chap so that she could get and be on the ships with all the men. And that's sort of where my character comes from, except that it looks more like Johnny Depp and Adamant. Is my costume inspiration. I have a huge yellow wig.
Yes.
Yeah, like I said before, I think if you play to your strengths and play to who you are, that's always the best. And when I've broken that rule and tried to make something that I've thought, well, this will get corporate bookings or Christmas bookings, or, that maybe it'd be good to have a more classic with it. It's never worked for me. If I break my own rule, it doesn't work. So it's always, I think if I have a burning desire in my heart, like one of my most successful acts was called Evolution of Woman, which came from a conversation with a French friend of mine, and we were discussing hair in humor and how in France hair is considered incredibly funny, and hairy women is all right, but it's still funny. Whereas in England, Britain, a hairy woman is not funny. So in Evolution of Woman, I think it was maybe 2.5 years in, and I really wanted to create something that I didn't have gloves, I wasn't wearing a corset. So the starting point was the hair. So I have these huge hairy legs in this act. I come in and I've got a tiger on my head, and you can't see me for the first part, and it's got the music from A Space Odyssey, and you just see a pair of glittery shoes on the stage, and they're red shoes because of that thing, the red shoes and the magic and the fairies. I love fairy stories. And I find the shoe and I start to beat the shoe like the monkeys do at the beginning of A Space Odyssey, and then I rise up and I pull the tiger head off, and it's the evolution of cave woman to showgirl, and I slowly strip off and I end up with a feather headdress and a sparkly bikini, and I'm wearing the shoes. But I pull off, at one point I sit on the chair and I rip the hairy legs off my legs, and I start to bump and grind, and then what's going on? Oh, and then I pull out a big, huge merkin from. And so I think I like to tell stories, and I love fairy stories, and I love mythology, and so lots of those things are things that inspire me to create new pieces, and I love making people laugh. I really love making people laugh.
So once you have one of kind of these ideas, or you want to tell this story, do you kind of spend a day in the studio going through it? Are your acts typically very choreographed, or do you leave room for interpretation?
I always start off with a notebook, because I'm not a traditionally dancer. I would start off, I'll write things down, and then I'll take it into the studio, and I will write the act, and then I'll try it, and then I'll write it again. And I like to go to the studio, film it. So that's my creative space where I could think, okay, I can have pink elephants, I can have men in gold leotards, I can have fireworks, I can have, a 20-foot headdress. I'll have all these silly ideas in that space, and then I'll film it, and then I'll take it back, and then I have a critique space, say like in my kitchen, and I'll watch the video, and then I'll take more notes there, and that's my, no, I don't need that doesn't work, that's right. That's my critique space, and so that's my be more sensible.
I love that. I love the idea of having different, actual physical spaces to do these different things. It kind of changes your mindset a little bit, I imagine.
It really works. It means that you know that you have one space where you can be ridiculous and silly and just let your mind be open to as many ideas. Because you can have so many ideas. I'm prone to have too many ideas for an act, and I have to normally pare it down. So if you have too many, it's great. And especially if you keep a notebook, because you can write them down, and it may not have worked for that act, but you might be able to use it in another one. An idea is never bad. It's just not necessarily right for that act, and possibly can be used, or you can give it to somebody else and they can use it.
That's some great advice. I really like that, kind of keeping that notebook and then also using those different physical spaces.
And also train journeys. I love train journeys for when you're not in a constant space, when you're not in your room, or I don't know, when it's sort of magical. You're traveling, and you're free. You're not driving. You're not concentrating. And some of my best ideas came on trains. But I always keep my notebook handy. Now with having an iPad, I'll keep notes handy so I can write something down, or I'll email myself messages. Go, oh, I've just had this idea. Da, 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 da. Being able to keep a notebook or something handy so that ideas will come eventually, or come to you, and that you've got something to write it down or phone yourself up or...
Yeah, and to keep open to that too. I know that's something that I struggle with myself, is because I tend to distract myself with like Candy Crush or something, and that just, and it's bad for me. It's one of those bad habits I have. I don't have too many horrible habits, but that is one of them. Is I know my head knows how important it is to just kind of stay open and have that notebook and be ready to, especially after you have an intense conversation.
Yes.
Like you were mentioning, because your brain is still processing it and you need to be open to those. And, for me, I tend to kind of shut it down and start, playing stupid games on my phone.
Oh, absolutely. I am a world-class procrastinator, so I completely understand that.
You feel me.
And I've also had art blocks. I've had times where things have not come and I've not been able to create. And then that makes you sort of down, and you start to doubt that you'll ever come up with a good idea again. I read a book many, many years ago that I recommend to so many people, and I can't remember the author's name offhand, but it's called The Artist's Way. It's a phenomenal book for any kind of performance. She's also written one for screenwriters, because she was a screenwriter. And it's such a good book, because one of the exercises that she gets you to do, it's called your artist papers. And you get a notebook and you pop it under the bed, and then first thing in the morning, you pretty much just pull it out from under the bed, get a pen. I used to do it with one eye open, and you write 4 pages of just whatever comes into your head. And then you shut the book and you put it back under the bed, and you don't read it and you don't let anybody else read it. And it clears out all the crap that you carry around about worrying about weight, or have you got the shopping, or, what color should I paint the spare room, or all these stupid things that are stopping the creative process. I think by the 5th or 6th week, I had to then have another notebook that I started to write my ideas down, because I was like, oh, but I want to keep this idea. I think this idea is really good. So I was doing sort of both. I was having the getting rid of book, and then I was also having the ideas book. So I would recommend it to anybody, especially if you're a creative person and you're having a little bit of a block, to just get rid of. We carry around so much stuff in the modern world. You can't help but, you'll sit down and you'll read Facebook, and you'll find out that somebody's been in a car accident or something's happened to somebody, and we get all these other people's emotions and troubles and different things, and that can stop us being productive as well.
It's so true. It kind of snowballs the more we have. I mean, you find, and especially the immediacy of the social media, you find things out right away.
Yeah.
So, for everybody listening, I will, as always, I'll put a link for The Artist's Way, and everything else that we mentioned is going to be in the show notes page for this episode, which is at burlesquestripdown.com/diva, D-I-V-A. So you'll be able to find that there. I'm going to pick up a copy of that book too. I'm always at any point I'm reading about 3 different books, and I've just finished one, so I'll add that into my rotation.
Oh, fab. Excellent.
Thank you for the recommendation.
Well, my friend, what he does when he writes his on organic paper, and then he shreds it, and then he takes it down to the local pet store for the hamsters so they can poop on his bad thoughts.
I love that. That's a great way to look at it.
So it's symbolically, he's getting rid of his crap out of his head, and then the hamsters can poop on it again. So it really is not required. You don't need this stuff. get it out.
Yeah. Yes, because we tend to want to keep every idea, and there's a lot of people that tell us, and it is true that there's no such thing as a bad idea and that we should write everything down. But at the same time, like you said, there's so much crap we have, in our heads, and so much just not ideas, but just stuff.
And also some ideas are not good for you. I had a day in the studio on Tuesday where I started to listen to Etta Jones and Julie London and just, some of the big band classic burlesque numbers. And I was practicing whip and I was practicing lasso, so completely nothing to do with traditional burlesque. But I started to use that music to create moves that maybe a sports whip cracker or a traditional cowboy style performer wouldn't necessarily do with a lasso or do with a whip. And I was just laughing my head off the whole way through. But a track came on, it's called Someday I Wish I Had a Gun, which years ago I downloaded, and I was thinking I'd love to use it, but it's not right for me, and I don't think I ever will use it. But there's another performer who I'm going to send it to as a link, because I just think she's doing lots of gun twirling at the moment, and I just think it would be so good for her.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and this ties into what we were talking about earlier, was creating this kind of community, and it's about helping each other and bringing each other up instead of, keeping everything for yourself just in case you want to use it someday. Yeah. No, just share the love, man.
I'm a hippie at heart.
Oh yeah, I think I'm in the wrong era. I should have been a hippie, that's for sure.
Well, I think with people, they think because I'm called Diva Hollywood, I think they think I'm going to be a right cow most of the time.
Well, diva,
Yeah, but I was reared by...
It's fun to play with them.
Well, I was reared by drag queens in Liverpool, and I was quite shy when I met all these amazing women. They believed that I was too shy, and they gave me the name because they wanted me to be strong, and they wanted me to stand out, and they wanted me to, they taught me how to wear wigs and put makeup on and come out clubbing and be crazy with them. I think of it as a powerful name, and Diva's not ill. Diva has all the energy. Diva has all the imagination, and so if I need to slip into that mode, then I can. Mm-hmm. So I slip into her when I need her, and then I'm just me, and I'm in joggy bottoms and pajamas and chilled out, or really scruffy.
Yeah, that brings up, this is actually a topic that's come up multiple times with Ruby Jones, and then with, several other people that I've interviewed about, the idea of like personas and characters, and how, especially in burlesque and other performance, drag and things, when we have these names, and how does your name relate to the real you, and how does, and it's interesting to hear people's stories, because everybody's a little bit different. There's not like one standard for that.
Well, I think for me, like, Diva is definitely part of me and always was. But like I say, I was always a tomboy who loved to run around and be in trousers and carry on with my dog. But I would still have silk scarves that I was flapping around, and I get into my mom's makeup and all this sort of thing. So I think she's my glamour puss that I can kind of put on like a nice coat, and
I love it.
She's there for me when I need her. And if I'm having a horrible day, she'll pick me up and give me a kick in the ass and outside and make sure I do stuff when I don't.
Now, of course, on the show all the time, I always like to talk about kind of like the reality, the down and dirty of the burlesque performance, the good stuff, the bad stuff, the ugly stuff. We've heard lots of stories about things like costume malfunctions, bad, dressing rooms, bad performances, offstage stuff, audience members, all that kind of stuff. Have you had a particular moment in your journey where it was just a really low point for you, where it just something was horrible, whether it was internal or external, and you found yourself really almost second-guessing yourself or not sure of yourself?
Definitely. There was a club that I worked for in Geneva. Like, you would do 2 shows a night. That became quite difficult just because of the clientele were very rich and very arrogant. You're performing and they're eating these expensive meals, and they're not necessarily watching any of the performers, or they felt that the performers were part of not only the entertainment, but we had to be protected quite a few times by people that worked there, because the guys thought that, we were dessert, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I found that really uncomfortable. And there was a few other issues that I had. I came back from that, and I just was like, oh God, why am I doing this? It became a chore, and it was not creative, and it wasn't pleasant. And yes, I was making a lot of money, but it didn't make me happy, and it really took me down as a performer. And I questioned myself, and I was like, I don't think I can do this. And I find, like, I'm really lucky that most of the corporate stuff I've ever done has been absolutely wonderful. And I think that was the only time that I was really in a situation that made me feel uncomfortable and made me feel unsafe. And I didn't feel like the promoters had my back or any of the other performers' back. And there was just lots of things happened that performers were really hurt and taken for granted. Yeah, it wasn't healthy. And I'm glad that I was able to step away from it and get out of it. And that's one thing I've been debating whether to bring up in the group. We talk about bullying and digital bullying and performers bullying each other, which does happen in some cases, but that we don't talk about promoter bullying. And that is actually something that does happen. So yeah, I've debated whether to bring that up on the group or not, because it could cause controversy. And like I say, I don't try and bring controversy to the group, but it is something that we've all had.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, on one hand, you want to avoid controversy too much, but maybe it is a discussion that needs to be had, whether it's on the group or not. I don't know. But, it is something that people need to know that. And that's one reason I'd like to ask this question, even though it kind of brings the interview down a little bit. But I think people need to know that they're not alone in going through these things. When you have a bad experience like that,
yes.
You need to know that it's not just you. It does happen.
Yes. And I think that's, like there's been lots of things on the group that people have been able to talk about that suddenly people realize that they aren't alone. And that has been really good. So maybe it will be something that I will bring up and talk about, because something that has on and off affected me through my career. And I'm sure I'm not alone in this.
And I think, in my opinion, the only way that kind of thing is going to change is if performers feel confident enough to be able to stand up when that kind of a thing happens.
Yeah.
We do need to correct it from the promoter side as well. And they need to know that they're, it's not good what you're doing, but it's also that, us as performers, we need to feel that we are confident enough, we are right enough to be able to stand up for ourselves as well.
I think you're right. And I think you're right about the fact of saying, you're not alone, that this isn't, you're not the only person that this has happened to, somebody or some, with an organization. I think that is something that I'm going to bring up, and that just to let people know that they have a back, they have a group that will give them support if they need to. And like, we're really lucky that we have equity, and they've fought and battled for me in the past. Like eventually there was a situation with this Geneva group that equity sadly was not able to help. They tried, but they couldn't help out. But at least I knew that they were there for me. We're so lucky to have that. And I know so many cases of different friends who've been ripped off or had situations that they've been able to go to equity with and say, look, this promoter is just, they're not being safe, they're not being healthy to performers, they're not paying, they're breaking tracks. So, we're so lucky in the UK to have that.
So let's flip this over a little bit. We had kind of that downer moment, but important. Downer, but important, How about a best moment? Has there been a moment, like one that sticks out to you as just like you were on just such a high?
God.
I know, I'm sure there's been many. That's usually that's the blessing of the wonderful thing about being in burlesque and this industry.
Do I only have one?
Well, give us one as an example.
I think one of my favorite moments was I got to perform 3 years ago at the Helsinki Burlesque Festival, and that whole weekend was just magical because Betty Blackheart and her partner Frank, they love burlesque, and everybody is handpicked for, you can't apply for the festival, you get picked. So it's just the most magical 2 days. They pick you up from the airport, they give you a goodie bag, they take you to the hotel, they run workshops, you're at the theatre for a very long time for the 2 days because they run tech through the whole show. They have a banquet of food backstage for everybody to eat, and they make sure that you're comfortable and happy. And I just remember watching this amazing performer. He was on, the German wheel thing,
No.
It's like a huge big wheel that a performer can kind of be inside, almost like a hamster wheel thing. And they
okay. I didn't know what it was called. Yeah.
On one of those. And there's a guy he looked like an Amish farmer, beard, but he's wearing a cocktail dress and high heel shoes. And I'm terrible, I can't remember his name, but he was amazing. And he was wearing this cocktail dress and high heel shoes with his beard, no makeup, at this wheel. And me and Tigger are just curled up at this little gap that you could watch the side of the stage. And that's one of my favourite moments because we're just grinning at each other like Cheshire cats, going, this is the first act, and oh my God, this show is going to be so amazing, because we knew that we were part of something really, really special. So that is one of my happiest moments, because it was just like, oh my goodness, this is going to be an amazing 2 days. And it was incredible.
I love that. It's something so special when you know how special it is when you're in it.
Yeah. And to actually, because it was 2 days, you got to do it all again, slightly differently, with the same amazing people, again, on the same amazing stage. And the promoters are also performers, so they know exactly what it's like from both sides, and they treat you really well. They understand how a production should be put together, and how they could have such a great variety and mix of performers. And I think that's wonderful. You know, there was classic, there was neo, there was gore, there was magic, there was a bit of everything. Betty Blackheart, I highly recommend you check that lady out. She's just stunning, has a huge heart, and loves this community.
Well, we'll add that. I'll add that in. I'll have to check her out a little bit too. So speaking of kind of being backstage and getting, you know, doing these shows, what is one thing that you always have in your burlesque backstage kit?
Black pepper and sugar, brown sugar, because coffee always tastes better with proper brown sugar. And late night food can be much improved with black pepper.
You are a girl after my own heart. The fact that your initial thought is to go right for the food. I love that. How can we make this food better?
Well, you know yourself, you're racing around, and no matter how much you try, you don't necessarily always remember to eat. And
that's very true.
You know, I think you guys are so much, you know, you've got diners that are so good.
That's true.
But in Britain, I'm afraid that late night food is awful. But it is much improved by black pepper. So, and I always
had some pepper in there. I love it.
I do try and make, like, now I am, because with doing bullwhip, I have to have something to eat, because otherwise I will just collapse on stage and I won't have the strength to do it. So I do, if I'm very organized, I do actually have, there's a 2 ingredient cookie, which is, you know, when your bananas go a little bit black, you mash up 2 bananas and a cup of porridge oats and mix that ingredients together. And sometimes you can throw in cashew nuts if you want to add in a couple of other ingredients, or raisins, or anything fancy really. And then you just make them into like little cookie shapes on a greaseproof paper, put them in the oven for gas mark 6 for 20 minutes. And they're just like little power bombs of cookies. They're kind of squidgy, and they're full of energy, and they're not fatty, because it's just banana and oats. That's a really great idea. I love that. I'm going to try making that, because I tend to, you know, especially in the mornings, or if I'm working or at shows at night, I tend to, when I have nerves going, I don't eat. That's big when I'm traveling as well. I don't eat. And so it'd be nice to have something small that I could just, you know, get some energy, or get, you know, a little bit of... They're great for that. And if you get, you can put cornflakes in there, or cereal, you know, like I'm gluten-free, so I use a cereal called Suma cereal, and it's kind of malty, so we crunch up some of those and put that in, and it gives it a little bit more crunchy, like a little bit more malty flavor. Some people put chocolate in, but I don't find that, I'm not a big fan of fruit and chocolate. But they're great. They're just like little power bombs, and I'm the same as you. I get nervous and I can't... Those I find, because it's not massively, it's sweet, but it's not, you know, sugary sweet. You're full of just these good tips. I got a lot to write down when I go back through and edit this. I'm gonna be like taking all my notes. Of course, like I said before, if for anybody listening, I'll write those up and put those in the show notes too. That little recipe there, so you'll have a reference there too. All right, this next little section I always like to do is called Pick Your Poison. Because, I mean, we have gotten to know each other quite a bit, but I would like to know just something kind of random and silly about you. So I have 9 different questions kind of written out, but I only need you to pick one of them. So just pick any number 1 through 9. 3. Number 3. Speaking of food, what did you have for breakfast today? I had gluten-free, it's almost like a German bread. It's really nice. It's kind of bitter, but I have it with raspberry jam. Fresh fruit raspberry jam, and organic peanut butter, because I'm a peanut butter and jelly kind of a girl, and a very, very strong cup of Guatemalan coffee, because I'm a complete coffee snob. I was just going to ask that, yeah. Very nice. Is that your typical go-to breakfast? Yeah, because that peanut butter is fantastic. If you don't need a huge amount of it, and I'm not hungry. That's it. That's all I've eaten all day. I haven't eaten since 9:30 this morning, and I'm just not hungry because that just sets me up for the rest of the day.
There's another one of my bad habits. I'm a sugar person, so I tend to eat something sugary for breakfast, which is not a good thing because then I'm hungry again in like an hour after.
Well, the jam is sweet, but it's fruit sugar jam, so it's not full of artificial sugars. It's just fruit sugar, so it's sweet.
That would be nice. Yeah, that's a nice thing to do. I need to be a little better. All these things that I need to change.
Well,
but
being sick, I made sure to improve my diet massively. Like we cook everything from scratch pretty much, and we don't use processed foods. And I have to inject 3 times a week. So on injection days, I make sure I definitely have my green vegetables. So I am very, very strict about that.
That's one thing I've always struggled. I mean, you mentioned the diners here in the States and everything, and we have so much processed food. I know there is a lot in Europe as well, but I just find, because I live in Paris sometimes, I'm kind of back and forth a little bit, and I just eat so much better when I'm over there. Here it's just so easy to go, to the diners or to, and it's good. It tastes delicious.
Yeah, your triple fried chips. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. Like, it's so awful. And the cereals, like this whole aisle of,
they're so sweet.
They're so sweet.
There's so much sugar in your food and corn syrup in your food.
Mm-hmm. And it's awful. And I was actually reading an article the other day, and of course there's always a new health theory about, what is healthy and what's not healthy for us. But it was saying that really calories are not what we should be looking at all. No. It's all about sugar. Yeah. We've been lied to, and just, they've diverted, they have diverted our attention to focusing on calories, but it's not. It's more about sugar.
I actually tried to give up sugar because I had dietary issues. I had irritable bowel, and they were like, oh yeah. And it's so hard.
So hard. Sugar's in everything.
Yes. It was almost like I got it down, but it's just impossible. You can no longer eat out, and most things most tin things and most jams and most preservative. It's difficult. It's really, and it must be much harder for you guys.
Man, and me, I have an even sweeter tooth, I think, than most Americans. I really love sweet things, but I think you made a good point with the jam. Is that I need to start looking into sweet things that are more like a different kind of sweet instead of the processed sugar, more natural.
I still will have a little. I'm not a saint. I will have I will get good. I like dark chocolate, but I love milk chocolate. So I will have 2 cubes of really nice milk chocolate in the day. And, I can have a big bar of chocolate and leave it in the fridge and not eat it. If I have my 2 pieces of chocolate, I'm not a saint.
Yeah. Well, I think my mom has always said everything in moderation, anything in moderation, and just about. I mean, there are certain things that you should probably never do, like heroin and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But as far as the other things, I know I could never. And I mentioned earlier, like, I love milk. Milk is like my favorite thing to drink ever. And there's no way. I know that dairy is probably not the best for me as far as my, my digestive system and all that. But there's just no way. But at least I can try to cut down a little bit.
Well, I've actually just started to re-drink milk because of the calcium. I'm having problems with absorbing calcium, so I've just gone back onto full-fat milk, and oh my God, it tastes so good.
Milk is just amazing. I'm trying milk alternatives, and the best I've found that I like is rice milk. It's not bad, but nothing is. I mean, I just love milk so much. Oh my gosh!
Well, I grew up on a farm for part of my life, and so you just to be able to dip the can into the milk vat.
Oh gosh. I'm drooling. And cheese is so good. I grew up in Wisconsin, and I don't know if you know anything about the states, but that is kind of known as like the dairy state, and it's just in my blood. But
if you ever come to Liverpool, I will take you to, there is a cheese dairy near to where I live, about 20 minutes from where I live, and all the cheeses are made with vegetarian rennet inside, so it's none of it's meat rennet in it. So it's all vegetarian cheeses. Oh my God! Every Christmas we will treat ourselves to at least 2 cheeses each from this place and get our nice kind of like crackers and some wine. And
that sounds delicious. My face is just lit up right now. You should see me. I'm like, that is sold. I will come and visit you and go there.
The first time we went, I think we bought about 8 cheeses each, and we were like, oops.
Okay, maybe that's a little overkill, but that's probably what I would do too. All right, well, I know what I'm having for lunch today. That's good. It's going to be cheese and milk everywhere. All right. So next up, I always do a section called This or That. It's one of my favorite parts. I just give you two options. It's kind of quick fire, and you just choose which one you prefer of those two. And I always let you know that you can interpret these in any way you like.
Right.
So let's do it. Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts?
Oh, it's Starbucks.
Do you guys have Dunkin' Donuts over there?
I have eaten Dunkin' Donuts, yes. We don't have one here, but yes, they have them in London. So when I was a kid, I have eaten them.
I wasn't sure. I'm like, I don't know if that translates, but whatever. Okay, quick fire. City or country?
City.
Love or money?
Love.
Dita Von Teese or Dirty Martini?
Oh, dirty martini.
A dirty martini or a pint of beer?
Oh, a dirty martini.
Day or night?
Night.
Harry Potter or Star Wars?
Oh, God, that's hard. Star Wars.
Top or bottom?
Top.
Mountains or ocean?
Ocean.
Classic or neo-burlesque?
Neo-burlesque.
Peanut butter or jelly?
Oh, peanut butter.
Comedy or tragedy?
Comedy, definitely.
Marvel or DC?
Oh, hard, but I think Marvel's winning at the minute.
They really are. They're doing a great
They're
job.
doing a good job.
So good. Sleep or sex?
Oh, God. No, that is hard.
This is the hardest one for everybody.
Well, considering I actually don't feel fatigued right now, I'm going to say sex.
Yeah, there you go. That's that calcium and vitamin D working for you. Woohoo! Heels or bare feet?
Oh, bare feet.
And lastly, Paris or London?
I love both those cities, but London feels that if I could have the money, I would live in London. I love London.
Oh,
a lot of people don't like it. They think it's really unfriendly, but I love the honesty and the brashness and the pace of it. And I cannot wait to go back up there next week. I love it. Like the last time I was there, I was doing the WoW festival. I got asked to run a cabaret event for WoW. So it was an event that had disabled, non-disabled, different ethnicities, all women, with the actress Liz Carr, who's also a cabaret and comedian.
That's fantastic.
We worked on it for about 6 months, and I was so proud of what we did. And it was just amazing because it's based in the South Bank. So you've got, you're going to work and you're crossing the London Bridge and you've got the London Eye, and it's so iconic.
Oh,
it just felt such a wonderful thing to do, to kind of be able to drive into London and know that you're putting on something in one of the biggest venues in the city. And as we were doing it, our crowd just grew and grew and grew. And I think we had about 800 women who were just cheering and going for it by the end of the event. And to actually promote it, produce it, compare it, co-host it with Liz, and then also to perform at it was just amazing.
That had to be such a fantastic experience.
Oh, it was great. And Annie Lennox was in the building at the same time, so we all kept kind of like trying to find Annie Lennox's changing room backstage.
Love it. Well, I mean, that's the thing about London. I mean, I've not performed there a lot, but from the vibe I get, it's just so artistic. I love Paris, and there is a lot of burlesque there, but it also tends to air more towards, classical type things. There's just not as much diversity there, I think. Yeah. Like I said, I love it. I do. And I think it's growing. But London, there's just something about it where every day I feel like I hear about more unique and amazing things that are happening there.
Yeah, I would agree. I just adore it. And there's so many of my favorite performers are based there. And yeah, it's a hard city to live in, but it's a fun place to live.
Well, someday we should all just have like a big burly house there, and everybody can just come, and they don't have to live there all the time, but we can just come stay and just have fun and get crazy. All right, well, before we say goodbye, this has been amazing. Obviously, I have Diva here, so she is the queen of our Burlesque Big Sister Brother Facebook group. But how do you typically stay current with the burlesque news? I know you guys have a great community over there in the UK. Do you guys have a place, or just on Facebook, or what do you do?
I think it's a mix, really. I think the Big Brother and Sister group is great for bringing up new things, and also there's always, every week, we have new performers joining, and they're bringing their points of view. But we have 21st Century Burlesque, which is also a really, really good resource. And I'm really lucky to have performers like Velma Von Bom Bom and Millie Dollar as friends who live in the same city as me, and we try and make sure to get together and talk. And I use Facebook a lot, and Instagram is always making me see things and pictures, and I'm like, oh, that's an interesting person, or that. I think I would use the internet mostly for finding out my information and being inspired by people.
Now tell us about a couple, maybe YouTube or Vimeo, any videos that we should check out. I'll link these up in the show notes, along with the links that we just talked about, 21st Century Burlesque and everything. Of course, the show notes for this episode will be at burlesquestrippeddown.com/diva, D-I-V-A. So we'll put these videos in there, but tell us about a couple of them, maybe one of you, and then one that you just can't get enough of right now.
Well, I think if you want to, I've got www.divahollywood.com, and you have keep trying to make it all my new stuff. So you'll be able to see my Tiger Tamer act, and I'm going to be uploading my new Pirate act up there. So there's some new videos going to be coming up there. And I think if you can check out Julie Atlas Muse, she's the one that I've got to find out the link for you, and I will send it to you. But I think definitely check out that lady, because she inspires me, and she's just genuinely wonderful. So she was the one that kept me going and going, if she can do it, I can do it. And she's that sort of person. So if you like something quirky and interesting, I would definitely check out Julie Atlas Muse.
Fabulous. Well, I will put, make sure we get that one in the show notes. And then if you have, do you have a video of your, The Evolution of Women?
Yes, I have a terrible video of it, but it is up there.
Well, that's all right.
It's funny. It's like one of my mostly booked acts, and I've been doing it for 8 years, and I don't.
It happens.
Actually, it's probably one of the ones I don't have a decent video of, but there is a video up there, so you can actually see it. But
well, after chatting about it, I would love to link that up. So we'll get that one in there for you. Yeah. And then you mentioned your website. So for anybody who's looking to kind of get in touch with you or find out more about you, maybe book you or come to see you, is that the best way to get in touch with you? Or you mentioned Facebook as well?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. I'm on the website is divahollywood.com. I'm lucky enough I got my name back. So I'm Diva Hollywood on Facebook, on Twitter, and also on Instagram. And I am on there far too much.
Oh, yes, aren't we all? The interwebs.
Indeed.
Well, perfect. Those will all be linked up in the show notes page, burlesquestrippeddown.com/diva. So head over there and check that out. Diva, it has been amazing.
Oh, it's been so lovely talking to you.
I have loved chatting with you.
And I hope you'd like the cookies.
Oh, man. I might try those today.
I feel like your mom.
It's all right. I like it. You're taking care of me. I appreciate it.
So hopefully, this will spread out, and lots of other performers will be like, God, them 2-ingredient cookies, they're really good. So hopefully.
Yeah, we'll make it a thing. If you're on Instagram or on Twitter or whatever, you should take a picture. If you're listening, take a picture of your cookies, and you can hashtag it,
Oh, yeah.
Burly cookies. Let's do hashtag Burly cookies,
that would be
shall
so
we?
lovely. Yeah, I like that idea.
So that's your call to action today, everybody listening. Make these cookies. You just need banana and oats, right?
Yeah, banana and oats, mash them up in a bowl and put greaseproof paper down, grease it, and I don't know what Fahrenheit, but we use gas, so gas mark 6 for 20 minutes.
I'll put it in
they're golden brown.
Perfect. And then take a picture, hashtag Burly cookies, and then we will check those out. We'll see. I get some cookies out of the deal. Cookie photos. I love it. Thank you so much, Diva. I'm sure that this will not be the last time that we chat together on this podcast.
Lovely talking to you. Bye.
And there you have it. Diva Hollywood, a fantastic woman to get to know. I'm so glad she and her partner have really taken it on themselves. They've decided to create these new projects for us. Keep an eye out for Birdie. I will absolutely be updating our show notes page for this episode as new things come out with Birdie. So you can always find that, as I've mentioned in the interview, at burlesquestrippeddown.com/diva, D-I-V-A. So you'll be able to find that. Definitely head over and join up with that Facebook group too, because we have a lot of great interactions there. And of course, your most important job is to make these amazing Burly cookies. Take your bananas and your oats and any other little extras and go ahead and make those. Get a nice, fabulous picture of them or of yourself eating them, and hashtag it Burly cookies. You can do that over on Instagram. That's where I'm at the most frequently, is on Instagram. You can do it on Twitter though as well. I'll be checking those and kind of retweeting those and posting them on our Facebook page so that all the world can get to see them. So I bought some bananas just yesterday, so I have to wait for them to kind of brown up a little bit. So I'll be getting now some pictures of those up ASAP as well. So definitely hashtag Burly cookies. Don't forget about that. I hope you loved the episode. I will be back again, on Thursdays for our hot tips, of course. And then next week, I have an interview with the beautiful Lola Frost. And coming up right after that will be Professor Pinkerton. So it's really great to have gotten to talk with these fabulous performers. As always, I feel like I just say the same thing because everybody is just so amazing all the time. Also, please don't forget to head over to the website and just kind of check things out there. I do have over on the right-hand side the Leave Me a Voice Message button, and I would really love to get some more voice messages. I'd love to hear your beautiful, sexy, sultry voices, and maybe even put them on an episode of the podcast as well. So just go over. All you need is a computer that has a microphone in it, and you can leave up to 90 seconds of a voicemail. If you'd rather not have your voice, you can also send me an email, velvet@burlesquestripdown.com. Also do that if you have any events coming up so that I can update our event roundup page to keep everybody up to date on that, on what's going on in your world. And of course, please don't forget to share this episode with your friends. Share the podcast. We want to get the word out there. If you are on iTunes or whatever your preferred podcast listening platform is, please do take a second to subscribe, rate, and review. That'll really help us get the word out there. We'll come up higher in the search results as well for people that are looking for burlesque-related podcasts. So please take a second to do that if you have not already. If you have already, I very much appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm going to head off and get some hot tea. My throat's still a little scratchy these days. Hopefully it gets better very soon. So I'm going to head off and enjoy. Apparently we have a tropical storm a-brewing here in the Florida area. So everybody try to stay safe if you're in the path of that. And I will be back with you very soon. So ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned, stay safe, but also stay sexy.